Welcome, Heels fans. We have made it to episode 3 of season 2 entitled Discord. We're going to recap the entire episode. And just to let you know, if this is your first time watching us, we'll be recapping the entire season. So make sure you like and subscribe. So, the main thing with this episode that stood out to me above anything is we finally got the big reconciliation between Jack and Ace. And more than anything, they both came clean about not only their insecurities, but what they wanted their relationship to be in the future. At the same time, even though we got kind of a happy ending, so to speak, I do think some of the things that Ace said hinted at potential danger that we're going to have going forward. So let's start with Jack. The main thing that I loved about Jack is that when he went and saw Ace, he had hat in hand. He was ready to make a full apology and an account of his behavior from the beginning. And he didn't let Ace's behavior stop him from what he was going there to do. Because a lot of times when we're ready to apologize, we just want the person to accept it. If they give us any attitude or any pushback, we just say, fine, forget it. And we just storm off and don't do the apology. But Jack was willing to work through everything. He realized that all of Ace's anger was legitimate, and he didn't let Ace's little snipes at him while he was trying to explain himself. He didn't let any of that take him off his square. And as he kept going and getting through his apology and his explanation, you saw Ace's demeanor completely softened. And really, what this moment symbolized to me was the breaking of generational trauma, the trauma that they inherited from their mother that they were carrying. We saw that in the beginning with Jack being beaten by her. He was carrying that all of his life, still has that animosity for his mother, and then seeing their father kill himself in front of them. All that trauma they held on to, and it's been impacting how they interact with each other, how they really can't truly be, in Jack's case, he couldn't be happy to see Ace go. And he admitted to that jealousy that he was feeling and feeling that he didn't have any control anymore. And when Ace saw that, he finally saw that all that weight that his brother was carrying, and that allowed him to open up. Now, when Ace opened up, it was a little bit different. When Jack was opening up, he was making a vow that I'm going to be better going forward, that I'm going to be a better brother to you, better husband, better family man, better businessman with the DWL. We can do all that going forward as long as you come home. Ace does not have that same type of hope for the future. He pretty much laid out what happened with him, that every single human interaction I've had on my own, I've screwed up. My emotional development is completely stunted. I've gotten this far based on my athletic ability, and now that sports are not here anymore for me, I don't have anything. I'm basically toxic. I need to be away from you. That's really the reason why he didn't want to go back to Duffy, because I think deep down, he knows there's too much self-sabotage in him, and he doesn't want to bring that back on the family. But Jack, loving his brother, he kept insisting, please come back, until he finally kind of accepted Ace's stance, gave him a little money, and they parted at least on good terms. But there's still kind of a divide between them. I noticed at the end when they reconciled, it was a handshake. It wasn't a hug or a deep embrace. So there's still a lot of residue there that, while it's been tempered, I don't think it's ever going to quite go away. And just like Ace said, how could it? He did humiliate his brother, live on the internet. So, there's still going to be a little bit of that hurt there. But, I kind of have to side with Ace here. He is very toxic. He is a man child. And, it was really symbolized in that interaction with the queer couple. They helped him, basically saved his life. And you would think he would be completely happy and indebted to them, that just this act of kindness, this pure kindness that these strangers bestowed on him. And he screwed it all up asking for some sex, just completely disgusting behavior. But that was kind of just a tipping point to, for making him to realize how terrible a person he is. But at the same time, he really didn't take to heart what one of the women told him. She said, be better. He's not realizing still that you do have a choice to improve yourself and to not continue to do this behavior. He still kind of has this hopeless air about him that he can't change anything. And that needs to change if you really want to see some growth with him going forward. So we see at the end of the episode, he does come back home. We got a little bit of a American Horror Story crossover with that nightmare dream. I did not expect that to be so gory and graphic, but that was kind of his wake up call that, look, I need to be back with family. I can't be by myself. But we're going to see how quickly he is going to sabotage that home life, or whether he's going to get back on the square and eventually find himself back in DWL, which I think he will. Having dreams about Crystal and Bobby, all the people he's done wrong. I think for any other reason, he'll want to come back just to make things right with those people. So that leads me to my next point, Willie. We saw some real good growth with Willie. She finally got the reins, got to do some booking. We got to see some cool scenes with her and Crystal interacting and building the character and building the show. Initially after, with that last episode where she basically had to give Crystal some tough love, we see them now on the same page, working together, getting the scripts together. But there's one big thing that's holding Willie back. And it's not anything that she's doing in particular. It's really the fact that she's not completely respected. You can say a little bit of that is due to her being a woman, but I think a big part of that also is just her being behind Jack for so long. The staff does not really see her as an equal at this point. She has a great idea, she knows the business, but now that she's stepping into the spotlight, you notice that when she came there to kind of order everybody to begin training, everybody kept talking. They were kind of brushing her off. The investors were there and kind of ignoring her. And she had to crack the whip a little bit. And that goes back to this whole idea that, women in authority, they got to end up being, real, bitchy, for the lack of a better term. And I know that's stereotypical, but that's what they have to do to gain respect. Everybody looks at them like, oh, why is she acting like that? But she has to act like that to get respect. When she was trying to be just nice and even killed, they weren't listening to her. They gave her no other choice but to really have to crack the whip like that. And even there's something else subtle that I wanted you guys, hopefully you didn't miss it. Towards the end, when Jack came back and Willie was trying to explain to him everything that she had did to hold things together, this great script that she came up with, Jack was in his own mind. He was just kind of like, whatever, do what you want, Willie. I don't know what I'm going to do going forward. And look at the disappointment on her face. She was really, I think we all yearned for some type of acceptance, especially acceptance from people we respect. And, she was really hoping that Jack was going to say, you really held it down. I love what you came up with. Let's move forward, maybe give you a bigger role now. She didn't get any of that from him. And you can tell that that really hurt her. So we're going to see where she goes from here, because if she's not getting that respect from Jack, who's the other person she's going to turn to, that's going to push her closer to Bill, who we know respects her deep down and, was willing to collaborate with her while Jack was out. So that's going to bring them closer together. And of course, as we saw with Ted, that's going to mess up her home life, because guaranteed eventually she's going to cross that line and do something she's not supposed to do. And who knows what that's going to do for the locker room dynamics. As far as Bill, this little podcast thing, I'm wondering what the fallout's going to be from that. It's a good idea on paper, but him ragging on Charlie and Dystopia and all that, that directly led to the big issue that we saw at the end of this episode. And I'm wondering if Jack is going to eventually blow up at Bill behind that, being that they never discussed doing a kind of behind the scenes podcast, even though, I think it was a good idea. Nobody could foresee this coming. And what I'm talking about is the big confrontation. Charlie goes to DWL Turf, confronts Jack, and basically is extorting him now, telling him that we're going to do a crossover, and if you don't accept it, I'm going to sue you and bankrupt the DWL. So let's talk about crossovers for a little bit. We've had some great ones in wrestling. The main one that we all remember from the early 2000s was the invasion angle that WWE did. Now, we remember Invasion, but some of us who were of age back then will also remember that it was still kind of disappointing because the WCW and ECW guys were never really completely on equal footing with the WWE guys, which was expected. We know how Vince was. He wasn't going to let any of those guys have a complete one-uppance on WWE, so we knew who was going to eventually win that feud. Um, I think the kind of the gold standard for an invasion angle or crossover angle would be Ring of Honor and CZW. They had that big, big feud in 2006, very much kind of showing the contrast between both companies, and that led to probably the most memorable independent feud, crossover feud that we've seen in wrestling, since the 2000s. But is that going to happen with Dystopia and DWL? Absolutely not. Because obviously, if this is an extortion thing going on, we know that Charlie's going to put his guys over, going to put Rooster over, and basically bury the DWL guys. So this is not in Jack's best interest to do. He's going to have to figure out a way to get up from under this. I think Ace is going to be the key. I'm not sure how yet, but this has to be something underhanded to get them up from out of this. And underhanded is Ace's specialty. Also with Rooster, I'm not completely sold on him being completely with Dystopia because I think he knows deep down he's being used. So we're going to see where his loyalties stay. A lot of it is dealing with the resentment that he has for Jack for not making him champion. But I think eventually he's going to see that Charlie is even slimier. Sometimes the devil is better than the one that you don't. So keep an eye on Rooster and his loyalties going forward. That about sums it up. I think it was a really good episode. I love that reveal with this whole potential crossover extortion thing going on. Keep in mind, Willie said something else that was very important about us eventually having a women's division because we can't just have Crystal fighting men, which I understand what you're talking about because they brought in some of the real life elements we've seen with domestic abuse in the NFL. So seeing Crystal getting thrown around constantly by men kind of stretches the imagination and also conjures up, bad memories for women that have been abused. So a women's division is very intriguing because that would mean you would have women regularly fighting for the world title. So does it eventually become intergender occasionally, or would it be a case where as long as Crystal's holding a belt, only women are challenging for it? Uh, One other thing about Crystal, I forgot to mention, her and Bobby, that's kind of the sweet, pure storyline that we've been seeing the entire season so far. So, being that she is the champ, she took charge and let Bobby know directly that, I am interested in you. We are a couple. I don't want you to have any doubts about us going forward. So, that was a nice moment to see. But I'm really interested to see the women that come in, are they going to be like Wild Bill? Are they going to be like CM Punk's character? There's so many different things that they can do there. And I'm wondering if they're going to start slowly incorporating in some of that dystopia blood and guts. Because before they do the crossover, Jack is going to have to start setting it up. And dystopia and family friendly entertainment don't go together. So I want to know if some of that, hardcore dystopia style, it's going to start bleeding into the DWL, while Jack is doing Charlie's bidding, which is probably going to happen at least for a few episodes. So let me know what you guys think. I was very happy with this episode. Really looking forward to episode 4 to see how we go with this dystopia angle. I want to see how long Ace stays on the sidelines. I don't see that happening much longer. I think he's going to be back wrestling probably by the 5th episode. How long are Charlie and Bill going to keep it platonic and just professional? I give that maybe 2 more episodes too. And how long is Crystal going to hold the title? Is she going to hold the title for the entire season? I'm thinking she is, but I'm thinking she's going to drop it probably in the last episode. I just don't know who is going to at this point. But like I said, let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys next week to recap episode 4 following next Friday's midnight premiere. Take care and talk to you guys soon.